Welcome to the Billy Ho Forecast Show. Please subscribe and like the video. Remember, the more you share, the bigger we grow. Now, let's go!
Hello, Billy Ho here. Another low-key fantasy football video for the 2022 draft season. And I know this is probably the first week people will really start getting into their home drafts and home leagues and whatnot. And I know people have been doing best ball since NOM, and they're really starting to gear up with all that stuff too. So this will definitely help. I got a handful of quarterbacks, a few and a few that might seem a little obvious, but they're going overlooked, and a few that'll probably make decent backups or good best ball quarterbacks. So stick around. I got a good list for you. All right. If you haven't already subscribed to Billy Ho Sports, I would appreciate you did so. Give a like to the video. It helps me grow the channel. Boom. So basically, we're here today to go over some key quarterback picks into the mid to late rounds to help your squad. And I wouldn't recommend reaching inside of the fourth round for like a Mahomes or a Josh Allen or something, because you're really just wasting too much draft capital there. Fourth round is usually like for home leagues, is like, back in the day, it was like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, first two off the board in the fourth, right at the beginning of the fourth round. A lot of people are wising up to waiting another round or two. So just keep that in mind. Always pay attention to who's drafting around you. 2 picks before, 2 picks after. That sometimes can dictate what you do. So if you do choose to wait, then I would reach on one of these guys that I'm about to talk about in this video. But you don't want to wait past 8th, 9th round to go for your first quarterback, because a lot of guys in your league roster, home leagues obviously roster 2 quarterbacks, and some leagues stream, but some leagues don't. Some leagues are kind of locked into a quarterback, so they're going to reach a little higher for that backup. So keep that in mind. But most everybody's probably going to have their first quarterback by at least round 7. So pay attention. And we're going to treat this video the same as we did all the other ones. 10 or a 12-man league for the most part, possibly 16 teams, some best ball love. So their guys aren't ranked in any order of preference, but they are, I consider, low-key and or sleepers. So the first guy I'm starting on the list is Russell Wilson. Yeah, Russ. I can't believe it. He's in Denver now. It sounds crazy, but this guy might actually fall a few quarterback slots. I think he's listed in most of the ones I've seen between 7 and 10 for the quarterback. And that's cool with me. I wouldn't mind. He is a well-known guy, and people have been drafting him for the last 5 years, really early in home league drafts. So don't be surprised if somebody snatches him in the 6th round and you're like, shit. Well, you just move on and you get to the next guy. But I would go probably round 7 early. That's fine. Anything beyond that's cool. I think he's, obviously he had Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf down. This new core is a downgrade. Well, I don't know. Tyler Lockett was a boomer bust guy down deep. He was more reliable in the last couple of seasons. DK Metcalf, we didn't get quite a big enough sample size of him year or two, but he was a monster. But, now he's got, of course, his injury to Tim Patrick's a setback, but he also has good wide receivers like Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton that have been dealing with guys like Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, guys that weren't quite as efficient as Russell Wilson. So these guys might take a step forward. And Alberto, give or take, he's an athletic guy. and they have a good running game, and their offensive line is a bit suspect. They did allow a little bit too much early pressure on dropbacks last year, but that might be good for Russ because he kind of thrives in that pressure, in his face blitzing situations. His efficiency rises, and plus he's still not too old to use his legs. Dude's only 33 years old, which is in the prime of your quarterback career. So he's another guy. I think he's going to make up for it in passing yards and touchdowns more than he used to. So I'm digging some Russ Wilson. And the next guy, believe it or not, Matthew Stafford. And another guy that sounds old as fuck, but he's only 34 years old. He might go sooner in home leagues as well after everybody looks at his stats last year and saw he was over 4,800 yards passing and 41 touchdowns. That's jackpot range for your QB1. So, and I don't see hardly any drop off, if any, this year because they swap out Bob Woods for Allen Robinson, which I think is an upgrade, better receiver. AR2 is not the blocker Woods is, but he's great in possession situations. Him and Kupp can control the field. And then you got guys like Higbee and Van Jefferson who are running wild, and a couple of decent running backs as well. Stafford is an absolute lock for a top 5 quarterback, in my opinion. And he's listed outside of the top 5. So I call that low key. He might not be a sleeper, but that's low key. He's definitely there. Another guy I consider low key, the next guy on the list, Derek Carr, Las Vegas Raiders. Another guy going overlooked in some leagues, and he has no doubt the best wide receiving core he's ever had. With guys like Waller and Renfro, he was already throwing for 4,800 yards, but he did only have 23 touchdowns last year. Now you add in Devontae Adams, and you vault those TDs up into the 30s, in my opinion. So Devontae Adams is going to add 8 to 10 touchdowns to Derek Carr's resume. Also, the addition of Josh McDaniels at head coach in his pass heavy, throwing on first down rather than running on first down, dumping off to running backs rather than handing off to running backs, I think will up his yardage, up his completions, up his touchdowns. And their defense is suspect at best in the secondary. So I see a lot of shootouts in their future. So Derek Carr might be a guy to be on the lookout. He'd make an awesome backup. But if you snatch him in like the 9th round as your number 1 QB, I wouldn't be super disappointed. Now we're getting into some more sleepy type of quarterbacks. And the next guy I want to talk about is Marcus Mariota, which was Derek Carr's backup last year, who has been a backup ever since he left Tennessee in disgrace after getting benched for Ryan Tannehill. But talk about a team that's going to be trailing. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons now. He's the bona fide starter. I like Mariota more in a best ball format because he's going to be using his legs a lot, in addition to having a pretty decent set of pass catchers. They now have Damian Williams in the backfield, which is going to help free up Cordell Patterson for them to do what they wanted to do with him all along last year, and that's move him all over the field. He might get 5 or 6 touches, handoffs in the backfield, but he's going to be a route runner, and he's going to be another guy, and he could be low-key in the running back format, obviously. So with that kind of backfield, Cordell Patterson's going to get some work. Then you have a legit bona fide star in Kyle Pitts, and then you have that rookie running back Drake London, who looks all the part of a number 1 bona fide alpha dog receiver. He's big and he's fast. So you could do worse in later rounds than Mariota. Okay, next guy up on the list. Another dude that left Chicago in disgrace. Mitch Trubisky, Pittsburgh Steelers. Another chance to rejuvenate his career. He's another backup type QB or best ball, but he, I think, can easily have a top 8 QB season. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris in the background will be a nice target and a bailout option in the backfield. So I think it would be pushing it for him to get to 30 touchdowns, but I think the yardage will be there, and I really think he'll more than supplement all that stuff with an extra 3 to 5 rushing touchdowns, because if you remember him in Chicago, he had several games where he would rush for 80 to 100 yards. So he's not scared to take off. He's not scared to call his own number at the goal line. So I look for him to be a borderline viable starter in your home leagues. All right. Next dude, Davis Mills, Houston Texans. Lots of trailing, lots of throwing, lots of maybe shootouts. He's not scared to throw the ball. So he showed me last year in some games that he can flat out compete in shootouts, and he'll have all the support from the Texans coaching staff. He's got a decent wide receiver core, Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, and then you got guys like Dorsett and Connolly that can contribute on occasion. Connolly can get deep. Dorsett's a good intermediate threat. I think they're pretty good. And they also have Pharaoh Brown as kind of that hybrid tight end. So Davis Mills could definitely put some stats up. Another backup best ball guy. All right. Now, last guy I want to talk about, going way up in drafts, Daniel Jones, New York Giants. Maybe I've been waiting for this guy to break out for about 2 years now. The only thing he seems to be breaking is his neck. And then the other thing he does is fumble all the time. So that said, in the world of fantasy, he still could make up for a nice backup or a starter if you're pushed to it. Hopefully they get Galladay and Kadarius Toney back soon enough. I don't know if Sterling Shepard comes back to the player he was, but they have my dude Wan'Dale Robinson to take his place. They've got a couple of serviceable tight ends, and then you always can't go wrong with a healthy Saquon Barkley in the backfield that can turn, with those added run after catch yards, can turn a quarterback's day from 220 to 300 in an instant. So you could get him early as the 12th round, I think, unless somebody reaches for him as a backup. But if he's not going to be somebody's first quarterback taken. So I see him more in almost your last round skill position player. So, okay, that's it for the low-key guys and the sleepers. This is what I want you to remember. Most home leagues will roster the 2 quarterbacks, like I said earlier, and guys are going to want that backup early. Guys like safety, they want to get that backup secured, like tight end, they only roster 2, and quarterback, they only roster 2. So they want that backup quarterback because anything happens to their number 1 quarterback, you know, they don't want some dude like Carson Wentz or Drew Lock leading their squad from week 4 on or some bullshit like that. So I hope you like the show. Once again, subscribe. Billy Ho Sports. We're going to be back in the fall swing. Be on the lookout for a DraftKings show for the PGA Tour Championship. And then there's going to be fall swing golf. Billy Ho's coming back next year. He's coming on strong. He's going to have DraftKings weekly shows, at least 1, maybe 2, like a preview and maybe a Friday show for ownership and whatnot, and lineup builds. So I'm really, really excited. Some of these videos are really starting to pick up some steam as we get closer to bona fide draft time. So within the next 2 weeks, I'd say it's going to be really, really popping off in the fantasy community. So follow me on Twitter, BILLYAH on Twitter. I believe you're going to see it right there. So next show, peace.